on site. So I think the mayor's here. I think we'll get started.
Hey guys.
Welcome. Hey Mayor, how are you?
Good, thanks.
We've got a number of people in and a number of people coming. So I think we'll get started. First of all, I'm Chris Cooney with the Metro South Chamber of Commerce. So welcome. This is week 15 that we are into this COVID resources and recovery call. Of course, we took the last 2 weeks off with the holiday and such. So we're happy to be back. We'll be happier in the days we don't need to do this as much or at all. And you know, we take some joy in the work that's been done and the leadership that we've had from the city, state, and federal resources, in that we're doing very, very well compared to a lot of other parts of the country. But we take solace in the fact that this virus is just increasing in some parts of the country and world. And so I was on a call just an hour ago with Margaret and the secretary and Lieutenant Governor, and there's some real concern about it coming back this way. So anyway, today we're going to celebrate some of the resources that are available. We want to thank some of our partners who have promoted this call: the Avon Industrial Park Association, Bridgewater Business Association, the Brockton Area NAACP, the Campello Business Association, the Cape Verdean Association, Downtown Brockton Association, the Easton Chamber of Commerce, the East Bridgewater Business Association, Haitians United, the Massachusetts Small Business Development Centers, the Norwell Chamber of Commerce, the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce, Randolph Chamber of Commerce, the Stoughton Chamber of Commerce, of course, SCORE, our resource partners, and the South Shore Women's Business Network have all helped promote the call today and throughout the 15 weeks. So we have a lot to talk about. Massachusetts is leading the pack in terms of EIDL and PPP resources and funds coming in per capita in the United States. And we want to, again, thank you. The reports came out this week, and many hundreds, over 1,000 companies in this region have received funds through either EIDL or PPP. And so special thanks to SBA and to all of our promotion partners for helping us get the word out. So question and answers. If you have questions, please post them down below in the Q&A section. We're also putting information down into the chat section about some grants that are available. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, both for business and organizations, but also personal. If you're in a position, or you know somebody's in a position that's having difficulty with their mortgages or rents, there are additional programs available. A lot of exciting stuff happening in the city. Construction has continued right through. I've recently toured 2 buildings this past week that are exciting, and we'll hear a little bit more about that as well. So with that said, Mayor, welcome. Thank you. It was good talking with you on Wednesday, and again, having you here today. You're smiling a little bit, so that tells me that numbers are looking a little bit better.
It's Friday, Chris. That's why I'm smiling. It's Fun Friday. That's why I'm smiling. No, thank you, Chris, and thanks to all the partners here, and of course, Metro South Chamber. And 15 weeks has a lot's been going on over 15 weeks. But as I said on day one, you know, here in Brockton, because we were so devastated by COVID-19, it was never date specific, it was data specific. And the data is really reflecting some really positive trends. Right now, 56 current Brockton residents have COVID, 56. You know, we were up to 2,900 at one point. Total cases overall, 4,262. Unfortunately, we did lose another resident yesterday, so 260 loss of lives. So 260 have perished because of this deadly virus. I actually took the tour this morning with Ted Carmen at Concord Square Development and some city officials, 28 Campanelli Way, which actually was built in 1890, the old St. Patrick's Temperance Society, and it was the former Petronelli Brothers gym. Marvin Hagler, undisputed middleweight champ of the world, Marvelous Marvin, that's where he trained, and we took a tour of it today. It's going to be really upscale, which is market rate housing apartments. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be a great addition to that part of the area. I was there with the ward counselor from Ward 5, Jeff Thompson, as well. A couple of things, Chris, this week. City Hall reopened. The main library reopened both on Monday to the general public. We're adhering to all social distancing and health guidelines. Today, the Manning Pool behind Brockton High reopened. Again, there's a morning session, afternoon session. We're taking all precautions. Next Friday, a week from today, the East Side Cosgrove Pool is going to be reopened. So both of our city pools will be open by a week from today. Today was the farmer's market. I just took a tour. I bought my strawberries and my blueberries and my squash zucchini. So again, farmer's market is great. Social distancing, wearing the masks. Really, let's support our producers here locally. And again, I just want to share one other thing. As you know, different agencies and social services have come together to try to help businesses and residents. One of the things that I did in conjunction with United Way, I created the Brockton Together Fund. And as of yesterday's announcement by Harbor One, they're donating $10,000 to that. We had $20,000 as seed money from United Way, $10,000 from National Grid, $10,000 from Rockland Trust, $10,000 from Sharon Crescent United Bank, and then $4,000 miscellaneous from residents. So 64 grand is in there as of today. That's awesome. That's a game changer. We're having a formulation of a task force to create an application process. Really, it's going to go to the agencies, social agencies that are going to help the residents. I had a great conversation with Rob Corley and Robert Jenkins about the RAFT program again the other day. So there's really a lot going on right now in Brockton. And one other thing is I have created a community justice task force. I've been working diligently with Chief Manny Gomes. Systemic change is going to happen. Brockton's going to be really an example for the Commonwealth and the nation. I've had great Zooms with NAACP and community activists and participation on BCA shows as well. So now that the 4th of July is over, we can really focus on what we're charged to do, helping businesses and helping society as a whole. So I'll be doing an announcement next week, and you're going to be happy of the initial people that are joining that community justice task force, and we're going to continue to add to the base, not subtract. So, Chris, thank you for what you're doing. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Mayor. Because we have some time today and we were going to wait for 2 weeks, I just want to kind of follow up with you on a couple of things you brought up. The buildings you toured, the former Abstinence Society, that's fantastic. Just to the west of that is the state building, which will be vacated once the new building is completed at the end of Belmont. We get a sense from the governor that they're going to put that up to bid for mixed use and some additional housing. Is that what you're hearing as well?
I am, Chris. Again, the old Ganley building is at the corner of Main and Belmont, really 123, right when you come to the core of the city. That building was razed. We're going to have a beautiful state-of-the-art building right there. Massasoit Community College is going to have a presence there as well. So, yeah, that building you just mentioned is going to open up. A lot of possibilities right now. Of course, Joffrey Anatole's building it really matches or surpasses Newbury Street, Boston. And I'm going to be taking an official tour. I know you did, Chris, as well. So there's a lot going on. I know Mr. McLaughlin, Brian McLaughlin, the old Staples across from Burger King up on Belmont Street. That's going to be a trade school. There's going to be a ribbon cutting in August. So a lot of balls in the air for Brockton. This is a good time to invest in the City of Champions, and I welcome anybody and everybody to consider it and join us.
So the mayor's talking about Porter and Chester that's moving from Canton to Brockton. They're expanding their footprint. They offer some extraordinary programs for young people to get trained in automotive and medical services and a number of cutting edge emerging careers opportunities. And it's a great location, great opportunity for Brockton. We did their ribbon cutting back in Canton probably 12 years ago when they first got to this region. And so it's great to see them grow. In addition, the mayor talked about 47 West Elm. That's Joffrey Anatole's second construction project in downtown. I understand that he's heading towards a third. He told me when we were on the tour that he is planning to pivot right after this is complete and move to another construction of additional housing units, which is great to see developers come to Brockton, have a good experience, and then want to expand. Just so we know, that building that the mayor is going to be touring, and I toured last week, is 47 West Elm. It's right next to the Elm Court Hotel, which has been there for 100 years. This building is state-of-the-art, brand new, as the mayor said, with wonderful attributes, some floor-to-ceiling windows. More than 25% of the units are already rented for September 1st. And so I know Joffrey, if possible, is going to have some additional open houses there, and he really wants to show off what they can do. They also, redid the Standard and Modern building, printing building on Pleasant Street, and those units are extraordinary as well. Mayor, you also mentioned the RAFT program. Are there funds still available for people who have a hard time with their rent or mortgages?
There are, and quite honestly, Rob Corley and Cindy are just experts in that. And of course, we're working diligently with the BRA and Robert Jenkins. So by all means, there's a lot of amenities and services. Go on the city website. Give me a call, 508-580-7123. We're not full staff, quite honestly. I'm here every day though, and it's finally good to see residents, taxpayers, constituents walking around the halls of City Hall. We're getting back to the new normal, but again, it goes back to the synergy, Chris, that you and Metro South offer, and we're all in this together. We want our community to flourish. We know that the southern states are seeing a dramatic spike in the wrong direction. We can't afford that here in the City of Champions, and we're going to be diligent and continue to be proactive, but at the same time working with the state delegation, the 3 state reps, the senator. I have a call every Tuesday with them, and I'm going to speak to Lieutenant Governor Polito as well, because I want Trinity Phase 2 to really be hopped up in the queue as well.
So one more thing, I just want to give you credit for receiving federal funds and then making them available for nonprofits and small businesses in the city of Brockton through the Brockton Redevelopment Authority. I know there's a grant funding process underway where they're issuing possibly 50 grants of up to $10,000. I know they've got about 35 or 40 applications. There's still room for 10 or 20, 30 more applicants in that pool. So kudos for you for dedicating and dedicating those funds to the need that's out there for small businesses along Main Street, but also for getting the word out. There are funds still available, correct? And I understand.
That's correct, Chris. Yes, CDBG funds. Yes. And another thing, other than money, and of course, money is what makes business sustain and puts food on the table for small business owners. But the Lowe's Corporation actually sent to my office cases and cases of masks dedicated just to businesses in Brockton, not to anybody else, but they want it dedicated to businesses, and I have to report back to corporate Lowe's. So again, if there's anybody here on the call that needs any masks, please reach out to my office. We'll be delivering with a service with a smile. You won't know we're smiling. We'll have the mask on, but we will. You can see it in our eyes. But again, listen, I've said this before, and I mean, it's not just because I grew up in Brockton, but Brockton is really poised for greatness, and we really are situated in such a great geographic location. #1 asset of the people. So again, if you are an investor, you have some cash. Right now, interest rates are unbelievable. So please strongly consider the City of Champions. We're not going to let you down.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks so much. Wanted to mention something else while we were at it. Is I was in the old Sampson Funeral Home 2 days ago. That building, for the first time in 3 generations, is coming on the market and is for sale. It is the most beautiful building that's been maintained, in my opinion, in the city of Brockton. It's about 11,000, 12,000 square feet total. It's right next to St. Patrick's Church, across from the YMCA on Main Street. And it comes with a sizable parking lot as well. Really a great, extraordinary development opportunity. I know we toured it with a couple of developers and the head of the DRA, Robert Jenkins, a couple of days ago. And I know there are several other interested parties who are looking at that. So it'll be nice to preserve that building. It's such a beautiful building with a great history. And again, a lot of great opportunities in downtown. So thank you very much, Mayor. Appreciate it. So we're delighted to have with us Margaret LaForest from the Mass Office of Business Development. Welcome back, Margaret. I love your background. The Fuller Craft Museum is reopened in Phase 3, and I know they're anxious to get back out, use some of their outdoor space as well. Welcome. As you know, people on this call know that Margaret is tied in very directly with the state leadership, and was a former city councilor in the city of Quincy, and services this region and works very closely with us and the business community in this region. So welcome. What can you tell us that's new? I know there's a lot of information on that last call.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I will tell you, the city of Brockton is very important to the Baker-Polito administration. As you know, when I came on board the administration in the fall, they said set up base camp in Brockton. And yourself and Mayor Sullivan have really been terrific to our team, to myself and Sue Whitaker, she's able to join us today. So I just really want to make your members know the good work and the connection that you're having on a weekly basis with Lieutenant Governor, but that really being positioned as a gateway city, there is much. And one of the updates that was on the call today with Secretary Keneally was about our economic development bill, and honestly knowing that this follows that really kind of gave some thought about how well Brockton is positioned to take advantage of this economic development bill.
Just before you go on, it's $750 million that was just approved. So please tell us more.
Yeah. So here it is. It's called the Partnerships for Growth Plan. And we had actually just signed off. And interesting, back in March, two of the last events I went to was the Fuller Craft Museum, which I'll talk about in a minute, to one of your events, as well as the signing of the Economic Development Bill by the governor and lieutenant governor, which we had an event up in Salem. Well, with results of COVID impacting, we've made some amendments and really focusing on equity and recovery within the Commonwealth. So areas of what to expect from this bill. There's 4 pillars. One is responding to the housing crisis. I actually had the pleasure of visiting Elm Street, Joffrey's project, with you and Sue, a few months ago. So really great to hear that he's cutting the ribbon and ready to move people in, and excited to hear that. As you know, housing has been a big detriment in the Commonwealth as far as housing crisis and housing need. So the housing choice bill is within this economic development bill, and we're optimistic. And that was one of the areas jumped right off the page for me for Brockton's positioning. Building vibrant communities. Again, you've really been investing in building your partners around that. Supporting business competitiveness and training a skilled workforce. So this package includes small business loans, grants, and technical assistance. And today you had asked me to try to talk about some of those resources that are still available. And I've mentioned it on the call before, but this is exactly it. I think when people think technical assistance, like, listen, we're not saying you need IT help with your computer, or counseling that you need, but technical assistance counseling is kind of what captures how we can support businesses. So smallbstrong.com is a public-private partnership funded by the Commonwealth. And I really encourage your businesses to go on there and sign up. There is a lot of multilingual assistance as well available through this group. So some of the key areas of focus. So this is really touching base with someone and getting you guidance and access to the different programs we're referencing. So these are just kind of some of the areas I think could be of value. Accounting, human resources, legal, marketing, operations, and digitization. One of the areas that, the reason I picked Fuller Craft Museum, of course, was my previous arts and culture pitch, and Mayor Sullivan said, come to Brockton. And the governor's team, of course, we're in that. We're working remotely and very much following the guidelines. So I really appreciate arts and culture, as you know, and am very impressed with the Fuller Craft Museum and the value it brings to the Brockton community. And so I want to encourage those on the call, if you're not walking the grounds or visiting them, I know that all the arts and cultural institutions in Phase 3 really are being hit very hard. They're on such thin margins in the nonprofits, but there's a virtual tour online that you can take at the Fuller Craft Museum. So be like me and come to Brockton virtually, and you can make a donation online as well. So arts and culture is definitely in an area that's struggling. And it's about kind of that consumer behavior, right? We're seeing outdoor dining being very popular, places pinch hitting. I know we talked about that Shared Streets program in the city of Brockton, applying for the state funds to really help with infrastructure to support small businesses. And we're seeing that not just the restaurants take advantage of outdoor dining, but some of the Main Street businesses, retail, kind of finding that outdoor space, because it's what is that consumer comfort level. And we're seeing kind of sluggish returns on indoor dining and some of these activities. But summer's here and vacation season's here, and I think it's a great opportunity to take advantage of what is in our own backyard, like the city of Brockton. So a couple other just small things about what's come out in Phase 3, the sector-specific protocols that whether you're an essential business, Phase 1 or Phase 2, chances are your guidance has been updated for Phase 3. We've talked about how we're going to progress slowly, methodically, strategically through a phased reopening, and guidance restrictions have been loosened. And so we want to encourage all the businesses to go back and see their Phase 3 guidance, and if they have any questions about how they are going to be in compliance, and I myself or Sue are here to take those one-on-one questions. A couple of hot trending topics: youth sports. Of course, all of the kids are excited to get back to their sports and part of their mainstream daily activities. And just to be clear, the guidance on youth sports is summer specific. It is for the summer season. Next week, the schools are submitted their plans to the Department of Early and Secondary Education, and so there's a lot of kind of anxiety around that for parents, but the schools and the communities are all putting their plans together, and those are due next week. So we'll look for more information on that. what else might I have in there? Oh, one of the things, Chris, I was really hoping to learn from this call is that I feel like people, reality is hitting in, the reality of the length of time of the COVID impact is going to be. I think when we were into this in March, thought, okay, we'll have a handle on this, and you're seeing what's happening around the country, and the position Massachusetts is in. And, thanks to, in part, to the businesses and the residents and everybody in doing their share, respecting the social distancing, cleaning and disinfecting, and adopting these protocols and being respectful. So one of the things I'm really looking forward to hearing is about what are some of the Brockton success stories or the Metro South region success stories, who's been pivoting, what's been doing well. And I'd love to, maybe even if it's offline, you and I talk about that. But if you have any to share today, I'd love to be able to report something back on that to the administration.
That's terrific. Yeah. I happen to do that in both instances. One of the questions that we've received in the past is the various phases. We're in phase 3. I know there was some confusion as to whether there's 2 levels to phase 3. And that was made very clear today that there's a second phase to, a second level to phase 3 prior to a phase 4. And so that'll be, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Not too much info on that. I think that we're talking about how, as we've gone through, we're saying phase 3 is going to be here for a while. This is kind of a longer term phase as opposed to we've made it through with great progress through that 3-week minimum each time. But now phase 3 is not going to be 3 weeks before step 4 of phase 4 rather. So step 2 will be loosening of restrictions and bringing more, some of these other opportunities online. So in the there's a lot of to be determined. So there's not any content that I can provide for you. So if you're looking for what's in step 2, where is that information? We don't ourselves have that yet. And I know a lot of the outdoor activities and the seasonal activities, there's a lot of anxiety for them to obviously scale up and be at increased capacity. And, for example, the weddings, the moderate size, and a lot of what the activities are planned around the summer. So you'll see they updated in the guidance, all the outdoor recreation guidance, and you'll see phase 3, step 2, it just says TBD, to be determined. So there isn't information. You're not finding it. We're not posting it yet. We don't have that finalized yet. But as I'll be here with you each Friday or each time the opportunity exists, and we'll update and answer those questions.
Thank you, Margaret. Thanks so much for being a partner. You talk about highlights or light points in this whole thing, and I think about the number of businesses that have received assistance through MOBD, through the mayor's office, and through especially the SBA. We received a list that just came out of all of the businesses that received support of over 150,000 in Brockton and the surrounding towns, and the amount is in the thousands of companies. As I had indicated today, Bob Nelson mentioned that Massachusetts per capita has received the most number of loans and most dollars of any state in the United States. So that's terrific. So as I look down that list and I see the companies, and these are small companies, to U.S. Government defines small businesses anybody with employees of 500 or fewer. So that's a small business. That comprises 95% of our businesses in this region. So when you look at our top 10 or 20 companies that have received millions of dollars each, they're known entities, and 2 out of the top 5 are nonprofits. One is Father Bill's, who was able to keep their staff and their places open, and another one was the Visiting Nurses Association, who are just doing yeoman's work and caring for people in the community. We're able to keep people working and keep the doors open during this whole epidemic. So. Locally, we've got a lot of success stories. I hope to have a couple of those folks on the future calls to talk with us about how it's made a difference. I can tell you we've received a number of calls and emails at the office, and telling us that these calls made the difference. That's why they applied. Many people say, hey, Chris, you told me to fill out the application and get in queue. That was in late March, early April. I really didn't think I was going to need it, but I'm glad I did. I didn't realize this was going to go on this long. Who did? Nobody did. But here we are, and we're looking at possibly, obviously, this extending another 6 months in some capacity in terms of impact on small businesses. So I know a lot of those small businesses were happy they got into the queue and got in the line, because now they're still seeing applications approved by the SBA. Both portals are back open. The EIDL is back open. PPP was to expire at the end of June for our last call here, and they extended it now to August 8th. So all those applications are back open and funding businesses. So it's not too late. And we really want you to spread the word if you're on the call now that it is not too late. In addition, more funds have come in to the RAFT program, as the mayor outlined. That's for individuals who can't pay their rent or are having difficulty, maybe they got laid off and can't pay their mortgage. They will fund up to $4,000 per year to help you cover that. So that might be employees you have, it might be a family member, it might be a neighbor, but please refer to the information down at the bottom so you can spread the word. That's a great. Is there anything else? I know Secretary Cost was on, Margaret, and she was talking a little bit about trending down of unemployment claims and whatnot. She was pretty positive about where we're at and the trends. Did you pick up anything else on that? I know she said there were a little bit of a delay because of fraud that had happened, but that they were working their way through it.
Yeah, there was, I think that was a hot topic that we've talked about. So unfortunate in these times, right? Everyone's hurting so much that the fraud that was out there, Massachusetts had a strong response, but it was part of a national unemployment fraud scheme with international culprits. So that's been difficult. I'll tell you, Secretary Costa, talk about a shining star coming through this. Her team pre-COVID was 50 people. They now have 1,400 people all working remotely, operating their call centers, much longer on a response time. I think in labor workforce development, the career center she talked about, and of course the Mass Hire has a Brockton-based career center. While they're not yet open to the public, they are working remotely. So if you're a company that is looking for resources and bringing back on staff, or you're an employee who is out there looking for ways to get back to work, or looking to get your, hone some skills on that, please, masshire.com, get connected to the Mass Hire Career Centers. They are a great resource, and of course they are right-based, have a location based right in Brockton. So the other hot topic on workforce development has been WorkShare. Sue and I talked about this back months ago, really as far as a lab conversion tool, right? How to maintain some of your staff. And now we're working with companies about, okay, how to get you back. So you've got your PPP funding, you need to restore your payroll. It doesn't say you need to restore them exactly to their amount of hours, but you need to get your employees back engaged and the number of employees. And WorkShare has really been a terrific tool in maintaining that workforce. So we're happy to talk to any company who is interested in that. It's really going to be planned and scheduled, just not as flexible. Some companies have been hiring employees when they can, working some hours, getting them collect unemployment, and that has also been happening when we're working with companies on that. So I think the big news, of course, out of labor workforce development was the unemployment insurance rates that companies pay. The big fear when this happened was if you were closed per order of the government, you were a thriving company. Now you're worried about, am I going to be double hit because my unemployment insurance rate's going to increase, and it wasn't because of my own fault that I'm laying these employees off. And so that's been determined that the unemployment insurance rates are not going to increase for companies that needed to have their employees collected due to COVID.
That's great news. The WorkShare program, we can't talk about that enough. A lot of small businesses are on that now. Just to give you an example, if you have 3 employees in the office, you can take 2 of them, put them on part-time, maybe 20 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours. You can reduce it up to 16 hours, right? And then you can do anywhere between 16 hours and 35 hours. So you're reducing people's hours. They qualify for unemployment. They get paid prorated by the unemployment agency. Plus, right now, they're getting the extra $600 a week from the federal government. So it's really a win-win-win. It strengthens the business. It strengthens the employee. It keeps the employee engaged. And that's what Margaret's talking about, is the ability to bring them back slowly as maybe now PPP funds are available. So you're using kind of a combination of PPP, work share, and other resources that EIDL that will keep the organization going and bridge to the other side of this. So we're going to post a lot of these resources. They're all at metrosouthchamber.com, but we're also posting them down below so you can take a look at it. Thank you, Lexi. I just saw she put up the SBA funding. So that's a good segue now to the discussion around this additional $600 a week. I know Eli's not going to get into this, but it is a federal issue, and Eli represents Small Business Administration. The House did pass an extension of the $600 a week unemployment. It was brought up on today's call by Secretary Acosta. She's really not sure what's going to happen. There's some discussion of just extending it out a few months or extending it and cutting it from 600 to maybe a smaller amount so that it isn't too much of an incentive for people not to come back, but serves those that need it. So I'm guessing that there will be some type of compromise along those lines. But again, work share works perfectly with that and really strengthens the organization, whether it's a for-profit or a non-for-profit or a museum or any other entity, and it keeps the employees engaged and allows them to be made whole and then be ready to come back when everything is the coast is clear. So let me now introduce Eli Spehu. Eli is with the Small Business Administration. He is an expert guru, we call him, working with banks and finance companies throughout Massachusetts. He has a background in that as well. He's going to talk a little bit about, a lot has happened since last time we met. As I said, on the federal government side, both EIDL has reopened for everyone, and so has PPP. It's been extended through August 8th. So Eli, welcome back.
Chris, good afternoon to you and everyone else on the call. I hope everybody had a great, 4th of July weekend. This sure felt different than those the years prior, but I hope everyone got to enjoy it somehow. So we definitely, you covered pretty much a lot of the updates that we've got on the SBA side as far as the loan programs go. And, the big thing that everyone keeps asking us about is the loan forgiveness. So definitely that is a hot topic on the SBA side. The lenders, just want to make it clear for everyone, the lenders don't have complete guidance about the process from the point that the small businesses fill out the loan forgiveness application to where the lenders have to submit it to the SBA. So that was one of the procedural notices we've been waiting for about a week now. We were sure we were going to see that today or by today. It's not out yet. So if we have any lenders on the line, and I know we usually do, that procedural notice is not out. Hopefully, we see it later today or early next week. But for small businesses on the line, again, there is no need to rush into submitting your loan forgiveness application. The beauty of the whole process is that the Easy 3508 form, the Easy Loan Forgiveness Application, is a one-pager with another page of certifications. 3 out of 4 loans in Massachusetts could potentially qualify for the easier track of the loan forgiveness. So definitely something that I feel is going to be easier for folks to fill out with potentially very little help from our resource partners or their CPA, attorney, business advisor, whatever the case may be. So I know my time is limited and we want to dedicate as much as we can to questions today, but I as you know, I do want to share with you some updates on the numbers, and we really have a robust database. Chris, you talked about the data we released for loans over $150,000 under the PPP loan program. Just want to make it clear for the audience today that that data set is based on original approvals. So some loans have been reduced, others have been paid in full. So there is a bit of data discrepancy. So you will see that that data set is going to get updated soon. When you have millions of units approved in a matter of weeks, definitely there's going to be some issues and some discrepancies in reporting or data entry. So don't hold it against the lenders, don't hold it against the agency. You have to hold it against someone, but I guess we've got COVID to blame for everything. So the quick report on the PPP loan program. This is, again, as of 6/30. So this is data as of 6/30. You can see, total units approved nationally. It is remarkable. And at the bottom, what I have in here is, small businesses as defined by the U.S. Census. They employ about 60 million people. And the PPP program supported 51 million of those jobs. So truly impressive. In Massachusetts, you can see here 1.1 million jobs were supported through the PPP loan program. So again, at the end of the day, these numbers mean something. They make a difference in people's lives. And we're grateful, again, we're grateful to the lending community, to those small businesses here in the state that took advantage of this program. Again, another breakdown here by the numbers, you can see that 86.5% of all the loans nationally, and that's true here in the state, it's very close to it, were for less than $150,000. So the majority of the loans that were reported on that data set, they only represent, by units, right? They only represent less than 14%, of all the loans that were approved. But again, you can see here by the numbers that the majority of these PPP loans, they went to the smallest businesses here in the state and throughout the nation. Some additional statistics here, which I find, you guys probably know it by now. This has been the 15th week, more or less, that I've been on this call. I get excited when I talk about numbers, but hub zones, rural areas, and low and moderate income areas are, a heightened focus area for the agency. So a hub zone is a historically underutilized business zone. So there are quite a few here in Massachusetts. Through our lending partners, we approved $2.6 billion in hub zone located businesses here in Massachusetts. So that's pretty remarkable when you think about it. Chris, you mentioned, on a per capita basis, how Massachusetts ranks, nationally. So rural areas, we don't have a whole lot of rural areas in Massachusetts, but even nationwide, rural did not get their fair share of funding. I mean, you can see they got 12 million jobs supported, which is great, but obviously it's not the highest number that here in Massachusetts we just don't have enough rural areas. But looking at low and moderate income areas, again, definitely the low and moderate income areas got their fair share of the PPP program. A share of population is about 28%. They got 27% of PPP funds. So I think that's an achievement by itself. Now, quickly on EIDL. So for the audience, again, there are two parts to the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. The same application allows you access to both. For those of you who have not taken advantage of the program, it is open. It is available. We have funding available. We've got close to $250 billion on that pot. So definitely, I highly recommend that folks take advantage of it. So again, 30-year repayment, 3.75% interest rate, no payments in the first year. So there is no immediate effect on cash flow of the business, whether you're operating, at 30% capacity, 50% capacity, or if you're shut down completely. Just apply for an EIDL loan, make sure that you sign the application, the paperwork. You can always prepay it. There's no prepayment penalties, there's no costs whatsoever to get an EIDL loan. Okay, but you can see.
Can I ask you a quick question on that?
Sure. Go ahead, Chris.
So I've been getting a lot of calls on this. Many people in the city and the surrounding towns have received these loans. They've received the advance at first, and then they got a follow-up email with a loan amount between 40,000 and into the millions. I wanted to ask you, because there are now more people interested in applying, When you apply for that advance, does that automatically become a loan application as well, and then the numbers come back, or is it two separate processes?
It's one and the same, Chris. So a very, very good question. And, that was the point that I was trying to make. So the application is for the loan. In the loan application, there's a checkbox where, that's all there is about the advance, where, you're asking for the advance. So it says, I would like to be considered for the EIDL advance. And that's where you provide the account name, the bank name, the account routing number, and the account number. So bank's routing number and your account number at the bank.
So how are they determining how much the loan is that they approve? They're approved for? Are people asking for a dollar amount, or is basically your answers to the question giving them the math that they need to
Exactly.
make an offer?
So in the first page, it does ask for gross sales. It asks for cost of goods sold. It costs for the impact to the business.
Okay.
So that's what determines. So it's a pretty basic formula that they have, and obviously, to reach to as many businesses as possible, the Office of Disaster Assistance has capped these loans now at $150,000.
150,000. So if people feel like they got offered 40 and they want to go back for 150, and their numbers are different, what was the question based on? Was it the last tax filing year, or was it just ballpark figures, or what?
So there's a simple formula they have. It's only based on like 4 boxes that you submit on page 1 of the application.
Okay.
So there is a reconsideration box where folks can go back in and submit additional information to show the economic impact, right, as a result of the COVID to their business, and they can request more money. But it's a process.
That is a critical point you just made, and that is that people that filled it out in March that qualified for maybe $12,000, and now they're in much deeper dirt here, situation than they were 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 weeks ago. And so you're saying they can go back in and apply again and just check a box saying, please update my numbers?
So it's not another application. There is an email address that they need to reach out to. So it's PDC reconsiderations. I'll share that with you so you can post it on the website.
All right, that's
so folks need to request. They need to submit additional paperwork showing that what the impact was to their business. And and there's no guarantees it's going to get approved, right? But they will reconsider those requests.
Okay, thank you.
And I just have on this last slide again. I just have some numbers for the state here, so state-specific numbers. You can see again on the PPP front, we still have over $130 billion available, so plenty of funding. If there are folks who have not applied, the deadline was extended to August 8th. We've got 13,000 units approved of PPP loans approved here in the state. And you can see between the advances and the auto loans, there's 241,000 approvals altogether in the state. So definitely, when you shared the numbers about us as a state getting more than our fair share, right, of funding during this, pandemic, the numbers support that, and it's definitely, again, it's a collective effort between, our lending partners, our, small business community, trade organizations, chambers, and municipalities and the like. So I think it definitely takes a village, to make this happen. So I want to thank you, Chris, for the opportunity again, and want to allow some time for a Q&A at the end. So I'll be here for that.
Thank you very much, Eli. That's great information, and so much has changed since we last talked in late June. And it's really pretty much all good news from Massachusetts. It's fantastic that, given our concentration of human beings here, that we've been so responsive to really keep this thing in check, this virus. And then at the same time, because of our connectivity, and I feel for the rural areas, we're able to apply online at a rate that is much greater than I think rural communities. That you really hope to see that those areas are getting more help with maybe folks that can get out into the field. But with that said, it's really terrific that the number of businesses and nonprofits have received assistance here in the state of Massachusetts. There are a number of questions. There was one from the mayor about basically an economic plan. I know Rob May has done some plans. This question has to do with, how do we know we're making progress with on economic development in the city? Is there a set of goals that are established for the number of buildings to be rehabbed, or when? And I think a lot of investors would like to kind of have a look at that as well, in terms of, well, I've seen, for example, 3 or 4 buildings in a 1 block area renovated. Maybe there's another building or 2 in that direct area that maybe has new lighting, new sidewalks, and the sewer's been redone and the gas lines have been redone. And maybe that's a better spot to invest or purchase than others. I know there is a comprehensive strategic plan, but Mayor, I don't know if you're still there, if you heard the question, but if not, we will get that posted down below and send it out in our thank you email, which you guys all the registered folks receive at the end of this. I know there is a comprehensive plan, so that's a great question. I also saw another question regarding guidelines for nonprofits, especially in the arts and culture, for phase 3 and summertime. So this is a question, I think, for Margaret. I know Margaret has a great link and resource. Maybe she even already posted it, for the guidelines in phase 3 in terms of outdoor venues. For example, the Fuller Crafts, there's a lot of outdoor space. How many people can they have? We're hearing up to 100 people, as long as they honor the social distancing guidelines. And that would have to be outside. So some venues can do it, like the Rocks, the Brockton Rocks. They are able to have 100. It includes the players, of course, but the mayor's been working with them to be able to have some visitors in the stands, but also down along the third base line. There's an open grassy area that where people can be marked out 6 feet apart, and they can watch the games. And they can also purchase, I believe, food that's individually wrapped and that type of thing. So I don't know, Margaret, if you can kind of weigh in on that, maybe with the link down below. Thank you for sharing the Small Business Strong, or smallbstrong.com. That's very helpful. And I'm looking back under the Q&A. Yeah, I think that was that question. So I think we covered a lot of that. Are there other questions that folks have? Did I miss anything? What is the RAFT program? The RAFT program is administered in Brockton by NeighborWorks. So maybe we can get that link put down in there, NeighborWorks. And it is a program that is supported by the federal dollars, that's administered locally by NeighborWorks. And you can apply for up to $4,000 to cover your rent or your mortgage payment if you have income of, I believe, less than $50,000. So we had questions early on from people who were making $100,000, let's say, and were laid off, and they were wondering if they qualify. And the answer directly from the panelists at that time was yes, because you're making nothing now. You're on unemployment. You're not employed. You were making 100,000. Now you're making less than 50. So that is a program that can be accessed. And I think, thank you, Margaret, for posting that. And hopefully Alexi or Emma maybe can post the RAFT program link. There's also a link to Brockton grants. There's still small business grants up to $10,000 to pay for PPP. I'm sorry, anything you need to honor the protocols for, like, plexiglass shields, PPE, not PPP. I'm getting confused here. The PPE, so the face masks, the hand sanitizer, all that can be paid for through a grant being offered to small businesses in Brockton through the Brockton Redevelopment Authority, and they are having administered that Mass Hire, which is Sheila's group. So hopefully we can get that put up there, that application process put up there. I know they're looking for at least 50 businesses to fund, and they're at about 38 right now. So if you're a Brockton-based business, or you know a Brockton-based business that could use some assistance on that, please reach out. Lastly, I'll mention again the masks that were donated by Lowe's Corporation, very generous donation. There are literally dozens of boxes that the mayor has available of masks. They have to be accounted for. So, but if you're a cafe downtown, or you're a museum, or you're in the city and you need some masks for your customers when they walk into your store, please let the mayor's office know. And he said that they will deliver them to you. So that is a very generous offer, and it's nice that Lowe's has stepped forward to do that, and the mayor's office has agreed to coordinate that. So I don't know if we have a direct, I think the mayor gave his phone number when he was speaking. So hopefully you can pick that up and make that call. So we're winding down on our time here together. I'm going to look to see if there's any quick questions. Thank you, Eli. This is your mailbox. Okay. Eli is available and has followed up with people after. So is Margaret available? And we're going to jump back to the chat.
Chris,
Yeah.
a common question that we are getting this week is from folks who basically got the loan prior to June 5th, and their covered period, for those loans was 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Some small businesses need, the 24-week track, and now, they're in week 14, let's say, right? Or week 12, and they're like, do I have to wait till the end of the 24 weeks before I apply for forgiveness? And the answer to that is no. So you can apply at any time that you have spent all the PPP funds in according to what the regulations of the program are, and you have either restored, full-time equivalents, restored salary wages, and hourly wages, to small businesses, or you meet one of those safe harbors where, you couldn't reopen due to state regulation or federal regulation, or you you had people who did not come back, you try to rehire similarly skilled individuals, and you couldn't because, and you have that documented, obviously. So if you've got one of those two safe harbors met, okay, and basically you've spent all the money on eligible, payroll and non-payroll costs, you don't have to wait the full 24 weeks to apply for forgiveness.
Okay.
As I said, there's no need to hurry to submit a forgiveness application to the lenders because they really can't do anything with it now. But if you feel that you've met all the requirements, you want to get it done and over with, send them the completed application. They have 60 days to sit on it, right? But they're not gonna, so I highly advise folks to, if they feel that they're ready, they meet all the requirements, to send those applications in or talk to their lenders, see what, some of them have portals already open. They don't need paper applications, but the paper versions are on our website. So if you go to sba.gov/PPP, all the information is there. We've got the easy 3508 form. As I mentioned earlier, it's a one-pager of information and another page of certifications. So fairly easy to fill out. And there's instructions that come with each one of the two sets of loan forgiveness applications. So one has 4 pages of instructions, the other one has 7 pages of instructions. Obviously, the easy version is by far the least cumbersome of the two.
So that's really good news for folks that received the PPP funds and then held on to them because the employees were, not able to come back yet. So they're going to be able to use those funds through, it sounds like, August. What if they gave the money back, Eli? Can they now get it back, or they have to start all over again?
So that's a little bit of a more, I think, intricate type of an answer because it depends. It depends how the lender reported the loan. So if the lender reported the loan on their 1502 reports as, voluntarily terminated, which if folks paid it back, voluntarily saying we don't need this, we don't want this, right? We cannot meet the requirements, then they're no longer eligible. But if the lender simply canceled the loan and said paid in full, it's now fully canceled. So it's a little more complicated, I think, the answer to it. But if the second is the scenario, then the same lender or another lender can approve another PPP loan.
I also
If it was simply canceled, right? So if it was canceled on our system, not reported as voluntarily terminated.
Okay.
So that's the differential.
That's a different scenario. Okay. So I've got another question from a company that has 4 or 5 buildings set up as separate companies. Can they apply separately for the EIDL or the PPP or both?
So the tax filings drive the applications. So if they have 5 different entities, but they all report under one parent corporation, let's say, under one tax filing, then they can only apply for one EIDL. However, if they've got 5 different, let's say, corporations or LLCs, and they all file their own separate returns, then they can file for 5 separate ones. Same goes for PPP.
We have a number of those in the city where they have 2 partners on this building, but 1 partner on another building, and then they own another building by themselves. So you're saying if that's the case, then they can apply if they have 3 separate tax entities and file.
Exactly, and another big benefit of this EIDL loan program is that landlords are eligible. So if you're a landlord and you're not eligible for PPP, obviously because it's a passive business, EIDL looks at that differently. So if you've been impacted, if your tenants are not paying because they don't have the ability to pay rent, and you've suffered an economic injury, you will be eligible for EIDL funds.
Okay, that's very, very helpful. And I saw there was somebody asking about the Lowe's PPE, whether that was available in other towns. And my understanding is it is not at this point. However, we can check into that and get back to you. Lowe's is also located in West Bridgewater, and they have other locations, I think, over in Abington. So we'll check into that and see if they're offering those items also through those towns at least. Let us have your information, and we can get back to you or post it in the thank you note. So I want to thank everyone for their participation. We are going to return next week and the week after. We're hoping to have Congressman Lynch on next week. We're working with his folks. I understand there's a lot of debate going on in Washington, D.C. right now, and we've had difficulty getting a commitment out of him for any of these meetings, but we're hoping that will change in for next week. We also have Bob Coughlin, who's head of Mass High Tech. He's going to come and talk about the opportunities for businesses in Massachusetts to partake in manufacturing and business opportunities around the production of PPE, but also, once the solution is developed, maybe for this virus, would production capacity be available? Many of you know that a $1 billion commitment was made for life sciences about 12 years ago in the state of Massachusetts. They've expended about half of that. And so half of that is still available to support and entice and to foster growth in this sector. And we're hoping that Bob Coughlin can talk a little bit about what he anticipates will be available for small businesses and businesses in Massachusetts to provide a leadership role in preventing us from being caught short with our ability to produce this type of equipment and these types of items as we go forward. We also have the governor committed for October 7th, I believe, at noon. And we have the race director for the Boston Marathon. Of course, there is no marathon this year, but we were able to reach out to him, and he's agreed to speak with us in mid-November. So we're planning programming through the end of the year, whether it's we're going to be ready for live, but if it's not live, we'll be ready to go virtual live. And so again, thank you for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you very much, Lexi, for your technical assistance, and Emma for helping to fill in the blanks. So Is that all? Anything else from anyone? All right. Have a great weekend. Enjoy. Thank you.
You too, Chris. Thank you much. Take care, everyone.